Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. The man who fatally shot Ahmed Arbury takes a stand in his own defense. Could it actually help him and his dad on trial with him? But first, day 2 of jury deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in the books. The waiting game continues. We've got a lot more insight into what the jurors are up to now. The jurors asked to see 6 videos. Among them, the drone video of the defendant fatally shooting Joseph Rosenbaum. That same video, now, the defendant's lawyers are arguing, should be the reason the judge declares a mistrial and end the case now. The defense saying the video that prosecutors gave them was lower quality than what was available. And I think this is actually a significant issue. I'm going to discuss it in a moment. But they also took a look again at this video, the second crime scene, where Rittenhouse shot and killed Anthony Huber and injured Gage Grosskreutz. They actually slowed down the video as well. And then there was this. Judge Schroeder explaining that bizarre moment when he had the defendant randomly select which jurors will deliberate and which ones will be alternates.
I'm now reading about how bizarre and unusual it was to have the defendant pick the numbers out of the tumbler yesterday. And I would admit that I don't know that there's a large number of courts that do that, maybe not any. I do it because of an incident that I had in a case I tried in Racine. Oh, I'm going to say I estimated 20 years ago it could have been less than that. It could have been more. But it was a big case. I think it was a murder case, but I'm not sure. And there was a black defendant, and there were 13 jurors, one of whom was black. And when the clerk, the government official, drew the name out of the tumbler, it was a black, the only black. There was nothing wrong with it. It was all okay. But what do they talk about? Optics nowadays? Is that the word for things? That was a bad optic, I thought. I think people feel better when they have control.
On the one hand, I love this judge, and on the other hand, I think he's a wacko. I don't know what to make of him exactly. Joining us again, 2 Wisconsin attorneys who know the law well. Former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Janine Geske, who now teaches law at Marquette University, and criminal defense attorney Julius Kim. Thanks to both of you. Appreciate you coming back. All right, Justice Geske, let's do a little reading of the tea leaves. They've gone back. They've looked at all of these videos, critical evidence in the case. Tell you anything?
Well, first of all, I think I predicted this 2 days ago, that they'd ask for jury instructions and some of the videos. It tells me that they're looking at the evidence very seriously. It tells me that they're divided, and there are some jurors trying to convince other jurors by looking at the actual evidence. And it tells me that they're still going to be out for a while.
Oh, interesting. All right. Julius, that's a more definitive take than I would have made about the jurors being divided, but it may be. What do you make? Do you agree that it shows that the jurors are divided?
No, I think that the jurors are just kind of ramping up right now. What I thought was interesting was that they took all of the 8 hours yesterday, and the only exhibits they asked for were the jury instructions. They didn't ask for any of this video evidence that is really the crux of the case and the kind of the juicy stuff in this case. So that tells me that they may have started off by selecting a 4-person, maybe taking a preliminary vote on some of these counts, but then they're doing bookwork. They're studying jury instructions. They ask for copies of the jury instructions, and I think they're just trying to familiarize themselves with the law. And then today, you see them asking for video evidence now so that they can apply the facts of this particular case to the law. And so it tells me that they're just kind of getting started right now.
All right, but here's what I thought was really important today, and that is that the defense is making a motion for a mistrial again. Now, they've already made one. People are going to say, what's the big deal? Here's the big deal. The big deal is that the defense is now asking for a mistrial based on the fact that they said they didn't get this drone video in the same quality that the prosecutors had it, but they're willing to do it without prejudice, meaning that the prosecutors could retry this case. That says to me that maybe the defense is getting nervous. Maybe the defense is doing the same sort of reading of the tea leaves that we are doing and saying, wait a sec, before I said it has to be with prejudice, meaning they can't bring the case again. Now suddenly they're making a mistrial motion And I want to play it. This is number 2. This is the defense making the arguments. And then I'm going to ask you both if you agree with me that this could be a sign that the defense is getting nervous about the verdict here. Let's listen.
There's no way that what 88 Krause is saying is true, because the file name would not have changed if my computer was compressing anything. It was a different file that we were provided from what was provided to the state, at least for what Attorney Binger gave me on Saturday. They're completely different.
All right, so they're saying that the video is different. It's a critical piece of video. It's this video where you see Joseph Rosenbaum eventually being shot by Kyle Rittenhouse. Justice Geske, does this show us that the defense is getting a little nervous?
Well, I was surprised, too, that they were moving for a mistrial without prejudice. I tend to agree with you that was a sign that they are getting nervous. And if the judge is willing just to give them another trial, I mean, this is a significant violation they're alleging, and they certainly could have added this to the grounds for dismissal with prejudice. And I suspect they were hoping for a quick verdict, and it's not happening.
Julius?
I agree with you and Justice Geske also. I think it's a definite sign that they're getting nervous about the deliberations at this point in time. And they're getting nervous about the video itself, because this all came about because the jurors wanted to see the drone video. And the defense realized, hey, wait a second, they're going to see this crystal clear video. And I think the defense realized that the video that they're going to see is a lot clearer and crisper version of the video that they were working with throughout this trial. And the defense was arguing that you can't see anything on this video, and you can't see Kyle Rittenhouse pointing this AR at the Zeminskis. But now they take a second look at the evidence and they're like, wait a second, the state's copy shows it clear. At least that's what I'm inferring from all of this. Yeah. So at this point, they're just saying, we want a do-over, because I think that an appellate attorney can look back at this case if there's a conviction and say, hey, why didn't you realize that you didn't have the HD version earlier, because it was playing throughout the trial?
Right, but a mistrial is a really big deal, right? Let's assume for a moment that this wasn't intentional by the prosecutors, right? Let's assume for a moment, because if it was intentional, the prosecutors, A, are in big trouble, and B, I think that, you know, the verdict would get overturned even if there was a conviction, if it was intentional. Let's assume for a moment that it's not intentional. Justice Geske, do you see the judge granting a mistrial?
No. It takes a lot to grant a mistrial, and
right.
They're making their appellate record. But I don't think any of the things that they've argued on their motions for mistrial rise to the level of, you know, if there are convictions, reversing convictions and ordering a new trial. I say that with an understanding that Judge Schroeder does things a little differently than some of us.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let me play another piece of sound, speaking of the judge. And this is him complaining about the media. Last night on the show, I said, wow, it's great that we have a camera in the courtroom, so we don't have to rely on people like us to tell you what to think about it. Meaning, you can decide for yourself watching the trial happen. Now, here's what the judge is now getting upset about: the fact that people are questioning him on television and second-guessing some of what he's been doing. This is number 1. This is the judge on the media.
When I talked about problems with the media when this trial started, we're there in part, not fully, but in part, because of grossly irresponsible handling of what comes out of this trial. I will tell you this, I'm going to think long and hard about live television of a trial again next time. I don't know. I've always been a firm believer in it, because I think the people should be able to see what's going on, but when I see what's being done, it's really quite frightening.
Well, it sounds to me like what he doesn't like, Julius, is the fact that there are lawyers like me and like us who are critiquing him. And he constantly goes into court and tries to defend himself and explain himself. And he's getting annoyed about that. That doesn't seem to me to be a reason not to have a camera in the courtroom.
You're going to give me this question, Dan? I practiced before this judge. So what I'll say is this, is that Judge...
Be careful. I want to give you a warning. What you say can and will be used against you in that court of law. Yeah.
I appreciate it. But Judge Schroeder, I think, at least at the outset of the trial, kind of liked the notion of having cameras in the courtroom also, and kind of was enjoying it. But as the trial has been moving along and as he's making these rulings, and I think he's starting to realize that it's a big world out there and social media spreads facts like wildfire these days. And there are people that are going to agree with his decisions and there are people that are going to not agree with his decisions. And people can be brutal. And so I think that he's starting to get a taste of what it's like having everything you do scrutinized by the public. And that's scaring him. It's turning him off.
All right, I've only got a few seconds left, but all three of us predicted that it was likely there'd be a verdict on Thursday. We all predicted this before the jury began deliberations. Justice Geske, you still betting on tomorrow for a verdict?
I am, but I won't be surprised if it's Friday.
Yep. Julius?
I'd like to hedge also, but I did say after lunch on Thursday, and I'll stick to that.
Yeah, I'm starting to hedge too. It does feel like this is the beginning of the process, though, unless they're pretty much in agreement and they're just trying to go through the evidence methodically and meticulously. Justice Janine Geske and Julius Kim, great to have you guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to having you back.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
And this is a live look from outside the courthouse in Kenosha, where cable news can't get enough of the protesters. But if you actually take a closer look, as we'll show you, I believe there are more reporters there than protesters. I'll show you what I'm talking about up next. Continuing our coverage this evening with jury deliberations in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. If you've tuned into much of cable news coverage this week, you might have heard about the protesters outside the courthouse and the possibility of rioting following a verdict. Well, shame on much of the media. The reality is the protests this week outside the courthouse have been small. This is a scene from today. I'm told that there are more reporters at the courthouse who are surrounding in that area than there are actually protesters. Joining me now from Kenosha outside the courthouse is NewsNation's Brian Enton. All right, Brian, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Am I right that generally there have been more reporters there than protesters?
Oh, absolutely, Dan. You're totally right. I would say today more than 100 reporters and members of the media here, probably way more, maybe 50 to 70 protesters at the most. And I want to kind of give you the lay of the land because you're right. You don't really see this part of it on TV. Most of the media is packed up tonight, but this is what you see out here, these tents and cameras, and literally this entire field, if you look in this direction during the day, all of this will be full of media tents. 30 to 40 media tents and reporters all over the place here. And over here, I want to just walk you over and show you. This is the Kenosha County Courthouse. And when you see the scenes of the protesters, they are gathered right there in front of the steps. And when you see the close-ups, it looks like a massive crowd. And you see the doors in the background and you see the steps and you think there's a ton of people. But really, we were out here all day. Again, there were more protesters today than any other day. And I would say 50, 60, maybe 70 protesters out here max.
They go there knowing that they're going to get a disproportionate amount of media attention because the media is waiting for the verdict. They've got nothing to cover, and so everyone surrounds them, right?
That is sort of the way it works. And again, I think when you're up close to them in front of the courthouse, the look is that it is so crowded. But if you could see, I mean, we'll show you tomorrow. If you could see in the daytime, I mean, this is a media circus. I couldn't even be standing where I'm standing right now because there would be just people lined up doing their live shots everywhere you could look. And then they would have the protesters in the background.
Right. It's almost like the protesters are there like as a nice shot in the back. But, and I mean shot in the background. But there are just not that many there. And I think that that is a story that the media is vastly exaggerating. One person who's not is Brian Enton. Brian, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good seeing you, Dan. Yep.
And from a Wisconsin courtroom to one in Georgia, the man who fatally shot Ahmed Arbury taking the stand in his own defense today. We'll show you the key moments from the direct and cross-examination. It's important stuff. Now to Georgia and the trial of the three men accused of killing Ahmed Arbury. The defense began to present its case today by calling one of the defendants, Travis McMichael. It was a blockbuster moment in this trial. He and his father, Gregory McMichael, as well as friend William Bryan, are charged with murder, among other charges, in the death of then 25-year-old Arbury. They pled not guilty to all charges. Now, this is not an easy defense. It rests on a two-pronged approach a reliance on Georgia's since amended citizens arrest law, and arguing that they were acting in self-defense. Now, before we play his testimony, reminder, this is the video of the incident taken by one of the defendants. You see Travis McMichael and his father trying to stop and eventually killing Arbury while he was running. Family friend William Bryan is behind filming it all. Now, here is some of McMichael's testimony under questioning by his lawyer.
Where's your gun?
It's in my hands, port arms.
Port arms is what?
I'm down. I got it down, both hands on it, hand on grip, and on both grips.
And what are you doing?
Coming around, I get to it. I was going to get to the front, to the center of the vehicle. At that point, he was right there. If he decided to turn, he'd see me and continue running.
Okay.
That was what I would assume was going to happen. I get to the front of the truck, and by the time I get to the front of the truck, he is at the front corner panel on the right-hand side, and he turns and is on me, and is on me. I mean, in a flash. I mean, he's immediately on me.
On you doing what?
He grabs the shotgun, and I believe I was struck on that first instance that we made contact.
What were you thinking at that moment?
I was thinking of my son. It sounds weird, but that was the first. That's the first thing that hit me.
What did you do?
I shot.
Why?
He had my gun. He struck me. It was obvious that he was. It was obvious that he was attacking me. That if he would have got the shotgun from me, then it was this is a life or death situation, and I'm going to have to stop him from doing this. So I shot.
Did he stop when you shot?
He did not.
Now, prosecutors then had a chance to cross-examine McMichael.
All right, so you just said, based on everything, you think something had happened,
Yes, ma'am.
but you had no idea what had happened.
At that time, no, ma'am.
At this point in time, you tell this jury that your father had suffered a couple heart attacks, a stroke, and a hip replacement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Made a decision to find out why he was so excited, what was going on at the time. I walked outside to analyze the situation to see why my father, who's had 2 heart attacks, a stroke, and a complete hip replacement, why he's so excited. What caused him to be in this state of mind? What happened? What has happened? It's not something that happens every day. So yeah, I was alarmed. I'm gonna go out there and see what happened, investigate what's going on.
You took your shotgun with you out there,
I did.
and you didn't tell your dad to go back in the house.
I didn't see him at that point. He ran off into the back of his room.
So when you got out there and you saw Mr. Albenze, you didn't say, Dad, go back in the house, we're not gonna do this, we're gonna call 911.
I've told him, when he jumped in the truck, when I asked him to call 911, I wanted to make sure that everything was okay, to see what was happening, to verify, to see if it's the same guy. If it was going down the road and if it was not the same one, then yes, I would, all right, this is not the same guy. This is a misidentification. This isn't the guy that police have been looking for and has been breaking in his house. This stuff has been stolen in it. It was continuing on, but as we went down and identified him, that yes, this is him. Let's try to hold him for the police, talk to him.
Didn't you tell this jury that you assumed your father was correct, and that's why you got your shotgun?
Yes.
The prosecution is going to continue its cross-examination tomorrow. Joining me again, Michael J. Moore, former U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Georgia. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. All right. I was not that surprised that he took the witness stand. A lot of people saying to me, oh, were you shocked that he took the witness stand here? It seems to me this is a very difficult defense, and their only hope is by Travis McMichael taking the stand. What do you make of it?
I think you're probably right. I wasn't surprised that he took the stand, even though I feel a little bit sorry for the lawyers because you danced with what brung you. And in this case, they really don't have much to work with. I think he was a terrible witness. I think he's just probably beginning to feel the sting of what's coming as a heated cross-examination. You know, just in those few clips that you played, I could have picked probably 20 questions and tried to knock him down. His poor infirm dad did. He ran to the back, jumped in the truck, you can just, he's not helping himself at all. And his story is unbelievable. I mean, he basically says, I got out of the truck, wanted to identify somebody, and then he was suddenly on me. Well, guess what? You ran a truck that runs at 60 miles an hour, and this guy's running down the street. If you wanted to get away from him, you could have gotten in the truck and taken off. So he's not helping himself. I did think he might, when I heard he was going to testify, that he might get on the stand and take responsibility for the whole thing just to try to save his father, to see if he might take some noble, fall on his own sword about it, but that clearly wasn't the case.
Let me play a little bit more of the prosecution's cross-examination. This is number 6.
Even though you testified, you're not going to chase or investigate someone who is armed, correct?
I don't know if he was armed or not. I don't know if he was armed or not. Just go and look. I'm not going to just look at the totality of the circumstance. It's not stopping to the point and say, are you armed, or if he had a gun or anything, I would have backed off. I just wanted to go and see what's going on. That was all it was at that point.
He didn't tell you, Dad, this is a really, really bad idea that could go really wrong for us, and we should just stay here and call 911. You didn't say that, did you?
I didn't.
Michael J. Moore, here's where I disagree with you. I actually thought that he was a pretty good witness. He just doesn't have a good story to tell, meaning that the facts are the problem for him. I thought as a witness, he was pretty good, except for the fact that the facts are really tough in this case. You think he was actually a bad witness?
I think he was a bad witness. I think he wanted so bad. And again, this may have been how they were trying to script him, but they talked about his Coast Guard training and whether or not he had learned to de-escalate a situation. He said, well, I learned to de-escalate by pointing a gun at people. That's ridiculous to say that. He said that he showed off at various times. He had some other instances where he showed someone he was armed to sort of scare him away. But yet in this circumstance, he's the one to draw down first on a shotgun on Mr. Arbury.
Let me play that sound. This is number 2 I want to play here because this is exactly the section you're talking about de-escalation. This is number 2 on direct examination from his own attorney.
In your experience, can pointing a gun at somebody de-escalate a situation?
Yes.
How so?
Well, if pull a gun on someone, which time they realize that this is, if it's threat or if you don't know what's going on in a situation and you pull a weapon on someone, from what I've learned in my training, that usually that calls people to back off or to realize what's happening, compel compliance.
Now, that is a very difficult story. I see you shaking your head. I hear you. The problem is he's got tough facts here, right? I mean, again, this situation is almost inexplicable as a defense, and so he's doing the best he can, no?
Well, I mean, he's got terrible facts, but he's trying to spin them in a way that makes it even more unbelievable. This idea that he's going to draw the shotgun down and that's going to de-escalate. Earlier in the testimony, he said, I even learned you don't hit somebody in the head with a baton because that could be deadly force. Well, what in the world was he doing with a loaded shotgun pointed at Mr. Arbury? I mean, he's got terrible facts and he just wants to talk and he wants to convince people that he's had this training. And I think that's what makes him a bad witness. It's a terrible case. I mean, there's no question.
It is a terrible case for the defense, and there will be more. And I think you correctly point out that the cross-examination could get even more aggressive tomorrow. We will continue to cover it. Michael J. Moore, thank you so much for coming on the show. As always, appreciate it.
Always glad to be with you. Thank you.
Coming up, Fox News and CNN united by Vice President Kamala Harris. That's tonight's Mediaite Moments coming up next. Time now for our Mediaite Moments, where we check in on the day's bias, buzz, and bull in the world of cable news and beyond. Big news in the inside cable news world. Fox News supporting and amplifying the reporting of CNN. Now, to understand why this is huge, let's take a look at how Fox usually characterizes CNN reporting.
Or her friends at Fake News CNN. Bet you didn't know that, bet you hadn't heard it on CNN.
CNN has been engaging in a cover-up of violent crime for quite a while.
There are some who are accusing CNN of being racist
and misogynistic. Fake news CNN, not Chucky Todd at MSDNC.
You see, they don't like CNN's reporting until now, because this is a report Fox News likes.
New CNN reporting describes tension and frustration inside the White House between the offices of the president and the vice president, Kamala Harris. Reading now from the reporting, quote, worn out by what they see as entrenched dysfunction and lack of focus, key West Wing aides have largely thrown up their hands at Vice President Kamala Harris and her staff, deciding there simply isn't time to deal with them right now.
Tension in the White House, VP on the outs. Sounds like Fox News chyrons. And so the tone about CNN became a little more, shall we say, complimentary.
In that big CNN piece over the weekend, Kamala Harris's allies are complaining that she's been sidelined by the White House.
CNN has just published this report. And by the way, they spent a long time telling us how great she is.
There are 3 dozen sources that spoke to CNN in this story on Sunday and said that the sources say she has been set up to fail.
This story was based on more than 3 dozen Harris aides, former and current. 3 dozen. That's a lot.
When you lose CNN.
Not only did they endorse the reporting, they then tried to build on it.
Capitol Hill correspondent Chad Pergram tells us he's been hearing whispers suggesting there could be some new high-profile confirmation hearings on the horizon in the House of Representatives. Why is this a big deal? Because the House does not confirm normal nominees, but it does confirm vice presidential nominees. Does this have something to do with Kamala Harris?
Wait, what? Whispers? I mean, she is incredibly unpopular, but replacing her altogether?
So I got a message recently from someone who knows Capitol Hill very well, and they suggested I should familiarize myself with the process to confirm a vacancy for the vice president in the Senate and in the House.
He's saying that someone who knows Capitol Hill, that could be a lot of people, is telling him there could soon be a vacancy for the vice president? Well, if that's true, that's the biggest story in a long time, which is why it's probably too good to be true.
To be clear, this is not something to say that something is afoot here, but I always do my homework, especially about process. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, who served under President Ford, was the last vice president confirmed by Congress. The Senate and House must confirm a vice president.
Wait, so there's actually nothing afoot? Hearing whispers and doing homework and talking about history is now the standard for putting on the air an explosive report about replacing the vice president? So in sum, it seems Kamala Harris is unpopular, both with the public and in the White House. CNN and Fox agree on that. And someone on Capitol Hill told a Fox reporter that he should bone up on his social studies. Got it. That's our wrap-up of the day's media bias, buzz, and bull. Coming up, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, not holding back when it comes to his former bestie Donald Trump. I'll ask him how he chose which shows to do on his book tour. My interview with Chris Christie is coming up next. There has been a lot of talk about Chris Christie lately. The former New Jersey governor has been dropping hints in recent days about possibly throwing his hat in the ring to take on Donald Trump in 2024. He's out with a new book called Republican Rescue, Saving the Party from Truth Deniers, Conspiracy Theorists, and the Dangerous Policies of Joe Biden. Governor Christie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be with you.
So your book is entitled Republican Rescue. In short, give us the sort of the Cliff Notes version. What needs to be done to rescue the party in your mind?
First and foremost, Dan, we got to start looking forward and stop looking backwards. You know, this is not going to be a time when Republicans can afford to indulge in grievance politics and vendetta politics in order to get things done. If we want to win again, if we want to be a party that can take back the House and the Senate and ultimately the White House, we got to talk about tomorrow, about people's futures, about our plans and how we contrast them against the ones that have been offered by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And if we don't do that, if we continue to look backwards, we're going to lose. You know, in 2 years, Dan, from 18 to 20, we lost the House, the Senate, and the White House. The only other time that's happened in party history is been from 1930 to 1932 with Herbert Hoover. And we then had the Democrats have the White House for 28 of the next 36 years. We can't do that, afford to have that done as a party or as a country, in my view. And so this lays out a plan for how we go forward. It addresses each one of the conspiracy theories of the last decade, QAnon, Pizzagate, birtherism, the things around the elections, and in a very prosecutorial way, lays out the facts and the conclusions that I come to, and I hope the conclusions the reader will come to, and gives us some insight also in the first part of the book into the last year and a half or so of the Trump presidency and the role that I played as someone who was trying to help him from the outside.
I think people are going to read between the lines, and they already have, and they're going to say that what you're really saying is that the party needs to be rescued from Donald Trump. Is that what you're saying?
What the party needs to be rescued from, Dan, is this looking back, this truth denying on the results of the 2020 election.
That's what Donald Trump is doing. That's Donald Trump, right?
And yes, and what Donald Trump needs to do is to stop using that kind of rhetoric. If he wants to be a part of helping to replace Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the future with a strong Republican president, then continuing to have these conversations does not help to do that. In fact, it hurts our ability to do that. And so, absolutely, I think that Donald Trump can be a part of the Republican future here, but only if he changes the things that he's talking about and stops talking to the My Pillow guy, about the fact that the election was stolen.
So is it fair to say that the heart of what you're talking about in terms of the rescue, though, is rescuing the party from where it's gone with Donald Trump?
Not entirely, Dan, because I think there are a lot of things, when you read the policy section of the book, that adopt the things that President Trump did while he was in office. Not all of them, but many of them. It's particularly going after the truth denying and the engaging in conspiracy theories, which distracts us from talking about the issues that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are creating through their policies, and prevents us from being credible about offering an alternative to that in a way that we can attract the suburban voters that we lost in 2020 back to us in 2022 and 2024.
Is it fair to say that in your mind, Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party today?
Sure, I think he's the leader of the party until there's another leader. Yeah, I mean, the guy who was the last sitting president, the last Republican nominee, remains the leader of the party until he's replaced.
Who in the Republican Party would you cite as potential allies in the rescue you're looking for?
Geez, I think any Republican who wants to win, Dan. I don't think there's any Republicans who look at this and say, geez, the last 3 years have been great for us. We got swamped in 2018. We got hurt in the midterms of 2019 at the state level. And in 2020, we lost the United States Senate and the White House. So I think any Republican who wants to win will be a Republican who will look at this and say objectively that we've got to move into a different path, because the path we're on, is a losing one.
But if you were to gather your team of Avengers here to do the rescue that you want to go ahead and do, who's on that team with you?
Yeah, I know you want me to give you names, Dan, but
I do. Yeah, I'm looking for names.
That's going to be up to them. That's going to be up to them. I mean, look, I think I'm one of the first leaders to be speaking out in this way, and certainly the first one who has been such a strong supporter of Donald Trump's over the course of the 4 years of his presidency and a good part of his campaign in 2016. So we're going to see who comes out and follows the plan and who doesn't. But the only way for that to start is for someone to take the first step. And I want to stop Republican on Republican violence. I want to stop vendettas. And I want to get us focused on contrasting with and debunking the things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to do to this country. And so whoever wants to join in that fight, I think is a pretty noble one and would be welcome in joining it.
You know, I saw you sparring with Nicole Wallace on MSNBC the other day, and she was trying to get you to basically criticize Fox News. I thought you handled yourself well in that context. I wonder, a part of your book is about saving the party, and I'm reading from it, from truth deniers, conspiracy theorists, and the dangerous policies of Joe Biden. One of the people in the media who has spread the lies and the conspiracy theories is Maria Bartiromo, who is on Fox Business. And you chose to do her show to promote your book. How do you reconcile that?
Well, because I've had a long, long relationship with Maria, Dan. My brother worked with Maria on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange when she first went down there. And so our families have a long connection, and we've known each other as friends for many years. And so I don't always agree with Maria and the stuff that she says. And when I disagree with it, I've said so publicly. But we can't, persuade people if we wind up ignoring the people that we disagree with. We've got to continue to engage with them and try to persuade them. And so I have a lot of respect for Maria that goes back, like I said, over 20 years. And I'll continue to consider her a friend and try to persuade her that all this conversation about conspiracy theories is not either helpful for her or useful for the country.
I get that, but it does seem when the very book is about that, right, is about some of these very conspiracy theories that you're talking about, the fact that you believe that they need to be eliminated. And then you go on with someone who is one of the people who is spreading it, and don't even say to her in that interview, hey, by the way, you're part of the problem. I'm not expecting you to be out there as, some hero who's going around saying, but I do think that when you choose to go on a show like that, in particular with her, I don't mean, all these shows and all these guys. I don't like it when people do that. I'm talking very specifically about her show because she seems to be the very person you're talking about in your book.
Well, look, I think that it says a lot about her that she had me on, because she knows exactly what the book was about and exactly what I was talking about. And so the fact that she reached out, given what the subject matter of the book is, and asked me to be on the program, I think says a lot about Maria. I think the easiest thing for her to do would be to not invite us, to not have an open conversation about the book on her program. So I actually look at it the opposite way, Dan. I think Maria is to be respected for the fact that somebody who wrote a book that very clearly debunks many of the things that she's been saying, that she's got the guts and the professional honesty to invite that person on. I give her kudos for that.
I hear that, except that you didn't challenge her on it, right, on the show. I mean, then she gets the real credit, right? If you come on...
The book challenges her. I mean, look, and she read the book. I mean, it was clear from her questions this morning that she had read. So, Dan, once she read the book, if she was like the left has been on this, she would have canceled me and not had me on the program. But instead, she read the book and she asked me questions about it in, I think, a fair, honest, and direct way. And I admire her for doing that.
We will have more of my interview with Chris Christie later in the week. Coming up. It's a race against time to save a driver stuck inside a car after he drives right into a marina. Incredibly, first responders happen to be nearby with a camera crew. Two of the heroes who saved that man's life join us next. I want to take you behind the curtain on the show for a moment. We have that unbelievable video, that rescue video that we were showing you before the commercial. And since the show is running out of time, what we're going to do is we've got these two heroes who are waiting to talk about it. I don't want to give them short shrift. So I want to talk about the Arbury case some more. I'm going to tape that interview with them, take some time with it, play that video, and then bring it to you later in the week, because they're too good, they're too important. I don't want to give them 2 minutes to talk about the amazing feat that we're going to show you later in the week. In the meantime, though, I was a little disappointed we didn't have more time on this case of Ahmed Arbury, right? He was the victim, 25 years old, shot and killed by Travis McMichael. He was there with his dad, Greg McMichael, William Bryan in the back, all three of them now charged with murder. Travis McMichael took the stand in his own defense today. A lot of people very surprised. I said before that I wasn't as surprised as many. This is number one. This is McMichael recapping the shooting of Ahmed Arbury.
I shot, the first shot, I knew I shot. And then the second shot, I shot again because I was still fighting. He was all over me. He was still all over that shotgun, and he was not relenting. So I shot again to stop him. That third shot, which I thought was second, that final shot, he disengaged. And at that point, he let go, he turned and continued to run down Satilla. And at that point, I was in shock. I turned around. I don't know where I was going. My dad came out, and he was yelling that he's got his hand under him. I turned around. We got over there and pulled his hand out from under him and realized that he was deceased. And I looked up, and the police were right there.
All right, so remember, this is the video. Now you can remove the chyron there so we can see it. Yep. So this is that moment when Ahmed Arbury is shot. All right, and there he is battling with Travis McMichael. And he's claiming it was self-defense. The problem is, of course, that they were chasing him in their truck, as you see there, while he was running. I want to play one more piece of sound from that testimony. This is number 4 of the defendant taking the stand today.
But I was trying to find out what was going on. I was trying to find out the situation. If I walked outside and I didn't see our neighbor that was aware of February 11th and knew that the guy that we're suspecting has been in this house several times, ran by, was pointing down the road, then yes, I said, Dad, calm down. Just calm down. But the totality of the circumstance and everything that happened the 11th, knowing that there was stuff stolen out of that house, that he has been continually breaking into this house, and then he just ran into the neighborhood with the neighbor pointing down the road, that led me to believe there's probable cause that something has happened down there. Something has happened with this guy again. Let me make sure, let's see what happened. Let me make sure everybody's okay. It's identified.
Cross-examination resumes tomorrow. That does it for us. NewsNation Prime starts right now. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.